Chapter 1. The Midnight Call. The city was shrouded in a thick fog that night, the narrow and shadowy alleys hiding secrets around every corner. It was almost midnight when the phone rang in Sam Shadow Rodriguez's small detective office. His nickname was no coincidence. Like a shadow, he slipped through the city's darkness, unraveling mysteries that few dared to face. Sam was sitting in his worn leather armchair, a lit cigarette between his fingers and a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the table. He picked up the receiver with a tired look, expecting another mundane case. On the other end of the line, a soft and fear-laden voice whispered, "Detective Rodriguez? I need your help. My life is in danger." The voice was that of a woman, and even through the phone, he could sense the desperation in her words. Sam straightened in his chair, his sharp instincts awakening. "Who is this?" he asked, his voice steady. "My name is Evelyn Harper. Please, meet me at the Eclipse nightclub. I can't say much over the phone. They are watching me." Before he could ask more questions, the line went dead. Sam looked at the phone for a moment, lost in thought. The Eclipse nightclub was known for attracting all sorts of shady and troublesome figures. Something big was happening, and he was about to be pulled into the eye of the storm. He donned his overcoat, placed his fedora on his head, and stepped out into the cold night. The streets of New Orleans were silent, except for the occasional sound of hurried footsteps and the distant murmur of cars. Sam knew this case could be more than it seemed, but Evelyn's voice left no room for hesitation. Arriving at the Eclipse Club, the building's facade was illuminated by neon lights, the name shining like a beacon in the darkness. The place was packed, the sound of jazz emanating through the doors as people came and went. Sam entered, his eyes adjusting to the dim light and the smoke that hung in the air. Evelyn Harper was seated at a table in the back, away from prying eyes. She was a young woman, with hair as black as the night and eyes that reflected a deep fear. Seeing Sam, she made a discreet gesture for him to come closer. "Mr. Rodriguez, thank you for coming," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm in danger. They found out something about me, something I wasn't supposed to know." Sam sat down, observing every detail of Evelyn's face. She was terrified, and the mystery surrounding her plea for help was just beginning to unfold. "Who are they?" Sam asked, his voice low and firm. "An organization, very powerful. I found something in my late husband's files, something that could destroy them." Before she could continue, a muscular man with scars on his face approached the table. He stared intently at Sam, the threat clear in his eyes. "Who are you?" The man growled, his tone aggressive. Sam gave a crooked smile, knowing the danger had just intensified. "Just a friend. Now, why don't you go back to your drink and let us finish our conversation?" The man hesitated, but something in Sam's eyes made him back off. Evelyn resumed speaking, now more urgently. "Detective, I need your protection. They won't stop until they get what they want." Sam nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The mission was clear: uncover the hidden secrets Evelyn carried and keep her safe from the approaching dangers. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Past. Evelyn settled more comfortably in her chair as Sam signaled the waiter for another round of whiskey. The detective sensed that the story she had to tell would be neither short nor simple. He needed to know everything to protect her and dismantle the organization pursuing her. "Let's start from the beginning, Evelyn," said Sam, lighting another cigarette. "What exactly did you find?" Evelyn looked around, ensuring no one else was paying attention. Then, she opened her small purse and pulled out a blood-stained envelope. "This is all that's left of my husband, John. He was an accountant for one of the city's largest companies, Multicorp. One day, he came home distraught, saying he had discovered something terrible. The next day he was dead, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Sam took the envelope and opened it. Inside were documents and photos showing shady financial transactions involving large sums of money and names of powerful people. Among them was a name Sam knew well, Victor the Butcher Russo, one of the biggest crime bosses in New Orleans. These documents are evidence of large-scale money laundering and corruption, Sam murmured, flipping through the pages. If this gets into the right hands, it could bring down a lot of important people. Evelyn nodded, tears streaming down her face. That's why they killed John. And now they know I have these documents. I need your help to get them to the police and ensure the truth comes out. Sam remained silent for a moment, pondering the situation. He knew that confronting Victor Russo would be dangerous, but he also knew he couldn't back down. Evelyn's life was in his hands, and he was not a man to abandon a lady in distress. Let's get you out of here first. I have a safe place where we can plan our next move, he said, standing up. But before they could move, the muscular man from before returned, this time accompanied by 2 henchmen. They blocked the exit, their threatening looks making it clear they weren't there for a friendly chat. I don't think you're going anywhere, said the man with a sinister smile. Sam looked around, searching for an escape. He knew their only chance was to fight. Stay behind me, Evelyn, he murmured, preparing for the confrontation. The tension in the air was palpable, and the battle ahead would be just the beginning of a long and dangerous journey. Chapter 3. In the eye of the storm, the tension escalated as Victor Russo's henchmen advanced. Sam stood firm, feeling the weight of each passing second. Evelyn, still terrified, clutched his arm tightly. Sam knew the only way out was to act swiftly and precisely. Looks like we're doing this the hard way then, Sam said, drawing a pistol from his waist. He aimed at the scar-faced man, who seemed to be the leader of the group. This won't end well for you, detective, the man growled, stepping forward. Sam pulled the trigger. A bang echoed through the club, and the man fell to the ground, groaning in pain. The other 2 henchmen hesitated for a moment, giving Sam the opening he needed. Evelyn, run, he shouted, pushing her towards the exit. The 2 of them dashed for the door, gunfire still ringing out behind them. People in the club screamed and ducked, trying to escape the chaos. Sam and Evelyn burst through the back door, emerging into a narrow, dark alley. The alley was damp and poorly lit, with trash cans and debris strewn across the ground. Sam kept guiding Evelyn, knowing they couldn't stop until they were at a safe distance. They turned several corners, trying to shake off any pursuers. Finally, Sam stopped, leaning against a wall and trying to catch his breath. Evelyn was panting, her eyes still wide with fear. We have to keep moving, Sam said, his voice steady. I know a place where we can hide for a while, but we need to be quick. They continued through the dark streets of New Orleans, every nocturnal sound seeming more threatening than usual. Sam's hideout was a modest apartment located in an old, decrepit building. When they arrived, he locked the door and checked the windows. Stay here. I'll prepare something to eat, and then we'll discuss our next step, he said, trying to calm Evelyn. She nodded, still trembling. As Sam prepared a simple meal, he couldn't stop thinking about the documents Evelyn had brought. This was much bigger than he had expected, and now he was in it up to his neck. Chapter 4. Precarious Refuge. Inside the modest apartment, Sam and Evelyn tried to regain their composure. The place was small but functional, with old, worn-out furniture. The walls were covered with faded wallpaper and damp stains. Sam locked the door behind them and checked the windows, ensuring no one had followed them. We're safe here, at least for now, he said, lighting a cigarette and leaning against the table. Now we need to figure out what to do with these documents. Evelyn sat on the sofa, clutching the envelope tightly. She was exhausted but determined to see this through to the end. "Detective, do you think these documents are enough to bring down Victor Russo and Multicorp?" she asked, her voice still trembling. Sam exhaled the smoke slowly, considering the best way to respond. "If we play our cards right, yes. But we need to be careful. Powerful people are involved, and they won't hesitate to silence us." As they talked, Sam took out a city map and began marking escape routes and safe locations where they could hide if necessary. Evelyn watched closely, trying to absorb all the information. Suddenly, a noise outside made them freeze. Sam turned off the light, signaling for Evelyn to stay quiet. They heard heavy footsteps in the hallway, followed by muffled murmurs. Sam grabbed his pistol, moving silently to the door. The footsteps stopped right outside the apartment. Sam held his breath, hoping whoever it was would move on. But then, the doorknob began to turn slowly. Sam knew they didn't have much time. He aimed his gun at the door, ready for anything. The door opened, revealing a familiar face. Mike the Shadow, an old colleague of Sam's from their police days. Mike was a tall, thin man, with a perpetually serious expression and eyes that seemed to see through the shadows. "Sam, we need to talk," Mike said, closing the door behind him. "I have information that can help you." Evelyn sighed in relief, but Sam remained cautious. "How did you find me, Mike?" he asked, still holding the gun. "I know you're trying to take down Russo, and I know you need all the help you can get." Mike raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm on your side, Sam. We have a common goal." Sam lowered the gun but kept his guard up. He knew trusting anyone now could be risky, but he also knew Mike had his own reasons for wanting to see Russo behind bars. "All right, Mike. What do you have for me?" Mike stepped closer, pulling out a folder from inside his coat. He handed it to Sam, who quickly flipped through the contents. Inside were more documents, photographs, and a list of names. "These are key players in Russo's operation," Mike explained. "I've been gathering intel on them for months. If we can link them to the documents Evelyn has, we might have enough to take them all down." Sam nodded, seeing the value in the information Mike had brought. "This could be exactly what we need," Sam said. "But we'll have to move fast. Once they realize what we have, they'll come after us with everything they've got." Evelyn looked at Sam and Mike, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "What do we do next?" she asked. Sam took a deep breath, the weight of their mission settling on his shoulders. "First, we secure a safer location. Then, we start planning our move against Russo and his associates. We can't afford any mistakes." Mike nodded in agreement, his serious expression unchanged. "I'll stay with you, Sam. We'll see this through together." Sam felt a surge of determination. With Mike's help, they had a fighting chance. They would have to be smarter and faster than their enemies, but they were no longer alone in this fight. "Let's get to work." Then Sam said, turning to the map, "We have a lot to do, and not much time to do it." Chapter 5. Unlikely Alliances. Mike the Shadow closed the door behind him and looked directly at Sam, the tension in the air palpable. Evelyn, still seated on the sofa, watched the two men, hoping for some sign of reassurance. "Sam, I have insider information on Victor Russo and his organization," Mike said bluntly. "He's planning something big, and if we don't act quickly, many lives will be at risk." Sam leaned forward, his eyes fixed on his former colleague. "Go on, Mike. What exactly have you found out?" Mike sat down in the chair next to the table, pulling a file from his jacket. He opened it, revealing photos, maps, and documents. Victor is expanding his operations. He's using Multicorp as a front for arms and drug trafficking. They're bringing in a massive shipment in the next few days. If we can intercept this shipment, we might have enough evidence to bring him down. Evelyn leaned in to get a better look at the documents, concern evident on her face. "What about the documents I have?" she asked. "Isn't that enough?" Mike shook his head. "They're important, but we need something more concrete. Something that directly ties Victor to the operations. This shipment could be our chance." Sam was silent for a moment, analyzing the information. He knew that joining forces with Mike would increase their chances of success, but he also knew the danger would be even greater. "All right, Mike, let's do this," Sam said finally. "But we need a solid plan. We can't risk our lives for nothing." The three of them began discussing the details, mapping out escape routes, observation points, and strategic locations. Evelyn proved to be surprisingly helpful, suggesting ideas and alternatives that could increase their chances of success. As the night wore on, the sense of urgency grew with each passing minute. They knew they didn't have much time and that any mistake could be fatal. "Let's get some rest," Sam suggested, looking at Evelyn and Mike. "We need to be at our best tomorrow. We have a tough battle ahead." They agreed and took turns resting, knowing that tomorrow would be a defining moment in their fight against Victor Russo. As Sam lay down, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into the eye of the storm. But with Mike's insider knowledge and Evelyn's determination, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Morning came quickly, the dim light of dawn filtering through the apartment's worn curtains. They gathered their things, preparing for the day ahead. Sam checked his gun, Mike reviewed their plan once more, and Evelyn made sure the crucial documents were securely hidden. "Ready?" Sam asked, looking at both of them. They nodded, steeling themselves for the task ahead. "Let's go then. Time to bring down Victor Russo." They left the apartment, stepping into the cold morning air. The city was waking up, but for them, the day had already begun in earnest. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. Together, they would confront the shadows of their past and fight for a future free from the grip of Victor Russo and his criminal empire. Chapter 6, Double Game. Dawn arrived with a biting cold, and Sam, Mike, and Evelyn were ready to put their plan into action. The apartment was silent, only the sound of controlled breaths and the palpable tension in the air. Sam did a final check on their equipment. Guns, ammunition, and the documents. They were prepared for whatever lay ahead. "We'll split into 2 groups," Mike suggested. "Evelyn and I will handle surveillance. Sam, you'll be responsible for intercepting the shipment. We need to make sure everything goes according to plan." Sam nodded, adjusting his hat and checking the pistol in his holster. "All right, meet me at the rendezvous point in 2 hours. If anything goes wrong, we move to Plan B." Evelyn looked at Sam, her eyes filled with worry. "Be careful, Sam. They're dangerous." Sam gave a half-smile, trying to lighten the mood. "Dangerous is my middle name. Stay safe, Evelyn." They left the apartment and headed to the location of the shipment. The streets of New Orleans were deserted, the city still waking up to another day. The port, where the shipment would arrive, was a maze of containers and warehouses, perfect for a clandestine operation. Mike and Evelyn positioned themselves on a high vantage point, with a clear view of the port. Sam, on the other hand, infiltrated the containers, watching every movement. The clock ticked, and adrenaline coursed through their veins. Finally, a truck entered the port, escorted by several armed men. Sam recognized some faces. They were Victor Russo's henchmen. He hid behind a container, waiting for the right moment to act. Mike, observing from above, spoke quietly into the radio. "Sam, we've got company. Looks like Victor decided to show up in person." Sam held his breath. Victor's presence complicated things, but it also meant they were close to a significant victory. Victor Russo, a burly man with an air of superiority, stepped out of a luxurious car, surrounded by his bodyguards. He talked with the truck drivers, inspecting the shipment. Sam knew he couldn't wait any longer. He emerged from his hiding spot and approached silently, keeping his gun ready. The tension was palpable, each step a mix of courage and desperation. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed through the port, followed by screams and the sound of metal clashing. Sam saw that Mike had been discovered. Victor's henchmen began firing in the direction of Mike and Evelyn's position. "Damn it, Mike!" Sam shouted into the radio. "Hold on. I'm on my way." Sam ran towards the firefight, his steps firm and determined. He knew he couldn't fail, not now. Chaos reigned in the port, but he stayed focused, knowing that Evelyn's life and the chance to bring down Victor were in his hands. As Sam approached the scene, he saw Mike pinned down behind a stack of crates, returning fire at the approaching goons. Evelyn was crouched beside him, trying to stay out of the line of fire. Sam moved quickly, taking cover behind a nearby container and aiming at the thugs who were closing in on Mike and Evelyn. "Hang tight," Sam shouted, firing at one of the henchmen and dropping him instantly. The gunfire intensified, and Sam knew they had to end this quickly. He spotted Victor Russo standing by the truck, barking orders and trying to maintain control over the chaotic situation. Sam knew this was his chance. With careful aim, he fired at Victor's bodyguards, taking them down one by one. The noise and confusion worked to his advantage, allowing him to get closer. Finally, he had a clear shot at Victor. "This ends now, Russo," Sam yelled, stepping out of cover and aiming directly at Victor. Victor turned, a look of shock and anger on his face. Before he could react, Sam fired, hitting Victor square in the chest. The crime boss staggered, then fell to the ground, his reign of terror finally brought to an end. The remaining henchmen, seeing their leader down, began to flee. Sam rushed to Mike and Evelyn, helping them to their feet. "Are you two okay?" he asked, concern in his voice. "We're fine, thanks to you," Mike replied, breathing heavily. Evelyn nodded, tears of relief streaming down her face. "You did it, Sam. We did it." Sam allowed himself a brief smile, but he knew their work wasn't done yet. "Let's get out of here. We need to hand these documents over to the authorities and make sure Victor's operations are shut down for good." They moved quickly, leaving the port behind and heading towards their rendezvous point. The sun was rising, casting a new light on New Orleans, a city that was now just a little bit safer thanks to their efforts. Chapter 7. The Heart of the Confrontation. Sam sprinted towards the gunfight, his heart pounding. Bullets whizzed past him as he maneuvered through the containers, each step a perilous dance between life and death. Evelyn and Mike were pinned down under heavy fire, their positions compromised. "Mike, Evelyn, hold your position. I'm almost there." Sam shouted into the radio, trying to keep his voice steady. He spotted Victor Russo, still surrounded by his bodyguards, inspecting the shipment with disdain. Sam knew this was his chance to end it once and for all. He crept closer, using the containers as cover, until he was just a few meters away from Russo. With a swift movement, Sam emerged from cover and aimed his gun directly at Russo. "Freeze, Russo!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the port. The bodyguards turned, but Sam had already fired, taking down two of them before they could react. Russo raised his hands, a cold smile forming on his face. "Detective Rodriguez, I knew you'd show up," Russo said, showing no sign of fear. Sam kept his gun trained on him, moving closer. "It's over, Russo. We have all the evidence we need," Sam stated, keeping his voice firm. Russo laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chaos around them. "You think this will stop anything? You don't understand how this game is played." Before Sam could respond, one of Russo's goons attacked him from behind. They grappled, exchanging punches and kicks, while the sound of gunfire continued to fill the air. Sam managed to overpower the man but felt a sharp pain in his shoulder where a bullet had grazed him. Russo took advantage of the distraction to try to escape, running towards the car. But before he could reach safety, a shot rang out. Mike, from his elevated position, had hit Russo in the knee, bringing him down. Sam approached Russo, now helpless on the ground, and pointed his gun at him. "It's over," Sam said, his gaze unwavering. Russo, with pain and fury in his eyes, finally realized that his reign of terror was coming to an end. "You think this changes anything?" Russo spat, struggling to speak through the pain. "There will always be someone else to take my place." Sam shook his head, not letting his guard down. "Maybe, but not today. Today it's you who goes down." He signaled to Mike and Evelyn, who cautiously approached, weapons still ready. Evelyn looked at Russo, her face a mix of relief and lingering fear. "We did it," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Mike nodded, keeping his eyes on the surroundings. "We need to get out of here and hand over the evidence to the authorities. This place will be swarming with Russo's men soon." Sam agreed, but first he made sure Russo was securely restrained. They moved quickly, leaving the port behind as they headed towards their rendezvous point. The rising sun cast long shadows on the city, but for Sam, Evelyn, and Mike, it signified the dawn of a new beginning. As they reached a safe location, Sam contacted his trusted allies in the police force, arranging for a secure handover of the evidence. Victor Russo was taken into custody, and the documents Evelyn had brought were instrumental in exposing the full extent of his operations. "It's finally over," Sam said, watching as the police cars drove away with Russo in the back seat. Evelyn, standing beside him, took a deep breath. "I can't thank you enough, Sam. You saved my life." Sam smiled, a weary but genuine expression. "We all did our part. Now it's up to the law to finish what we started." Mike clapped a hand on Sam's shoulder. "You did good, Sam. We all did." As the city began to wake up, the trio stood together, knowing they had made a difference. The battle had been won, but they also knew the fight for justice was never truly over. But for now, they could take solace in the fact that they had taken down one of the city's most notorious criminals, and that was a victory worth celebrating. Chapter 8. Secrets Revealed. With Victor Russo on the ground, wounded and without escape, the tension in the air began to dissipate. Sam kept his gun aimed at the mobster, his eyes fixed on the enemy who was finally at his mercy. The sound of gunfire ceased, and the port was enveloped in an eerie silence. Mike descended from his elevated position and joined Sam and Evelyn. He looked at Russo with contempt, satisfied to see the man brought down. "It ends here, Victor," Mike said, his voice filled with determination. Evelyn approached slowly, still nervous but visibly relieved that the nightmare was coming to an end. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice still trembling. Sam lowered his gun but remained vigilant. "We hand these documents and Russo over to the police. This will be enough to dismantle his organization and ensure he spends the rest of his life behind bars." Russo laughed, even in his vulnerable state. "You think this will stop anything? There are others like me, ready to take my place. You don't understand how deep this corruption goes." Sam looked at Russo coldly. "Maybe, but today we cut off the head of the snake. And that's a start." They quickly tied Russo up and placed him in the car. Mike took the documents from Evelyn, storing them carefully. The drive to the police station was silent, each of them lost in their thoughts about what had happened and what still lay ahead. At the station, they handed Russo and the documents over to the authorities. The police chief, a stern and just man, looked at the evidence and the mobster with a grave expression. "Good job, Rodriguez. This will make a significant impact," he said, shaking Sam's hand. Evelyn, exhausted but relieved, looked at Sam and Mike with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life and brought justice for my husband." Sam gave a tired but satisfied smile. "We do what we can, Evelyn. Now you can start rebuilding your life." As they left the station, the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and red. The city, which once seemed shrouded in shadows, now appeared a bit brighter. Mike lit a cigarette and looked at Sam. "Well, partner, it's been a long journey. What's next?" Sam shrugged, gazing at the horizon. "The city always has more secrets to reveal. But for now, I think we deserve a drink." They headed to the nearest bar, ready to relax and reflect on a mission accomplished. They knew new threats would arise, but they also knew that together, they could face them head-on. As they walked into the bar, the familiar hum of conversation and clinking glasses greeted them. They found a quiet corner and ordered their drinks. Sam raised his glass, looking at Mike and Evelyn. "To justice and to those who stand against the darkness." They clinked their glasses, a sense of camaraderie and accomplishment settling over them. The battle had been hard-fought, and the road ahead was uncertain. But for now, they could enjoy the victory and the knowledge that they had made a difference. Evelyn took a sip of her drink, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I think my husband would be proud of what we've done." Mike nodded, a rare smile breaking through his usual stoic demeanor. "He would be, Evelyn. We've done good work here." The evening wore on, and as they shared stories and laughter, the weight of the past days began to lift. They knew the fight against crime and corruption was far from over, but with each other's support, they were ready to face whatever came next. And so, as the city of New Orleans buzzed with its usual nighttime energy, Sam, Mike, and Evelyn sat together, knowing that in a world full of shadows, they had become a beacon of light and hope. Chapter 9. Lingering Shadows. With the Victor Russo case wrapped up, Sam, Mike, and Evelyn found a rare moment of peace. Seated in a local bar, the atmosphere was unlike any they had experienced in the past few weeks. The place was cozy, with soft lighting and the soothing sound of a piano in the background. Sam ordered a round of drinks, and they settled into a corner table. "So, what's next?" Mike asked, lighting a cigarette. "Gonna take a vacation, Sam?" Sam gave an ironic smile, taking a sip of whiskey. "Vacations have never really been my thing, Mike. This city has too many secrets, and there will always be someone needing help." Evelyn, still processing everything that had happened, looked at Sam with gratitude. "What you did for me, Sam, I can never thank you enough. You've given me a new chance." Sam nodded, serious. "I just did what needed to be done. Now it's your chance to start over, Evelyn. Make it count." The conversation continued, punctuated by moments of contemplative silence. They all knew that despite their victory, the battle against crime and corruption was far from over. But for one night, at least, they could relax. Suddenly, Sam's phone rang. He answered it, his expression quickly shifting from relaxed to concerned. After a few seconds of conversation, he hung up and looked at the others. "Looks like our work never ends. I just got a tip about a new case. Something big." Mike raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it this time?" "I don't have all the details yet, but it involves disappearances and human trafficking. Could be more dangerous than Russo." Evelyn frowned, worried. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Sam?" He gave a determined smile. "I don't have a choice, Evelyn. Someone has to do this work, and I can't just sit by knowing there are people who need help." They finished their drinks and prepared to leave. The night was just beginning, and the city, with all its mysteries and dangers, awaited them. Sam, Mike, and Evelyn left the bar together, ready to face the next challenge. They knew that together, they could make a difference, even if only a little, in that dark and secretive city. As they walked through the dimly lit streets, the reality of their work settled in. The fight against crime was relentless, and the shadows would always persist. But they had each other, and that gave them the strength to push forward. They arrived at Sam's office, where he quickly gathered the essentials for the new case. Maps, files, and notes scattered the desk, a familiar chaos that marked the beginning of every investigation. "All right, let's get to work," Sam said, his voice steady and resolute. Mike nodded, his usual stoic demeanor tempered by a spark of determination. "We'll need all the intel we can get. If this is bigger than Russo, we're going to need a plan." Evelyn, despite her recent ordeal, stepped forward with newfound resolve. "I want to help. Whatever you need, I'm in." Sam looked at her, appreciating her courage. "We'll need all the help we can get. Let's start by reviewing what we know." As they delved into the details, the weight of their task became clear. The network they were up against was vast and ruthless, but they had the advantage of experience and an unyielding commitment to justice. Hours passed as they pieced together information, contacted sources, and formulated their approach. The first light of dawn began to break through the windows, casting a pale glow on the room. "This is it," Sam said, laying out their plan. "We move tonight. Be ready for anything." Mike and Evelyn nodded, their resolve unwavering. The battle ahead would be tough, but they were ready to face it head-on. As they stepped out into the morning light, the city seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the clash between light and darkness. For Sam, Mike, and Evelyn, there was no turning back. They were the line between order and chaos, the guardians of secrets, and the fighters against the persistent shadows. Together, they walked forward, ready to unveil the city's darkest corners and bring hope to those lost in the shadows. The fight was far from over, but they were ready for whatever came next, united in their mission to protect and serve. Chapter 10. Echoes of the Past. As they walked through the shadowy streets of New Orleans, the trio reflected on the new challenge awaiting them. The night air was cold, and a light fog began to form, cloaking the city in a veil of mystery. Sam's determination was palpable. He knew that for every criminal like Victor Russo, there were many others lurking in the shadows. They arrived at Sam's office, a small and simple place but equipped with everything they needed to begin their investigation. Sam turned on the lights, revealing walls lined with files from old cases and city maps marked with clues and notes. "We need all the details on these disappearances," Sam said, sitting behind his desk. "Evelyn, could you check for any recent news on human trafficking in the city?" Evelyn nodded, grabbing a laptop and starting her search. "Mike, we need contacts within the police force who can provide us with additional information. Someone we can trust." Mike nodded, picking up the phone. "I know a few people who can help. I'll see what I can find out." As they worked, Sam reviewed the notes he had made during the call. The details were scant, but one thing was clear. The new case was a complex web of lies and betrayals, with innocent victims caught in the middle. "I found something," Evelyn said, drawing Sam's attention. "There's been a significant increase in the disappearances of young women in the past few months. All vanished near the city's nightclubs." Sam frowned, analyzing the information. "That could be our starting point. We need to check out these clubs and find out who's behind this." Mike returned with good news. "I have a contact who can give us access to the police's internal files on these cases. We're meeting him tomorrow night." Sam looked at his partners, feeling a mix of concern and determination. "This is going to be dangerous, but we have to go forward. Lives are at stake." As the night wore on, Sam's office became a command center. Maps, files, and notes piled up as they planned their next steps. They knew they were getting close to something big, and any mistake could be fatal. Finally, they decided to get some rest before the next phase of their investigation. Evelyn found a sofa in the corner and quickly fell asleep, exhausted. Mike and Sam continued working, knowing that rest was a luxury they couldn't always afford. Sam looked out at the city through the window, reflecting on what lay ahead. He knew that, regardless of the dangers, the truth needed to be uncovered and justice served. The next evening, they prepared to meet Mike's contact. Sam reviewed their plan, ensuring every detail was covered. They arrived at a dimly lit cafe, where a man in a trench coat was waiting in a secluded booth. "This is Detective Harris," Mike introduced. "He's one of the few good cops left." Harris nodded, sliding a folder across the table. "These are the internal files on the disappearances. It's worse than we thought. The missing women are being trafficked out of the city, and it's all tied to a man named Jacob Fenton. He runs several nightclubs as fronts for his operation." Sam scanned the files, his jaw tightening. "Fenton, I've heard of him. He's dangerous. This isn't going to be easy." Harris leaned in, his expression serious. "You need to be careful. Fenton has deep connections and won't hesitate to eliminate threats. But if you can gather enough evidence, we can take him down." The trio left the cafe, their resolve strengthened. They spent the next few days meticulously gathering information, visiting nightclubs, and talking to people who might have leads. Each step brought them closer to Fenton and his operation. One night, while staking out one of Fenton's clubs, they spotted a van loading young women. Sam's heart pounded as he realized this was their chance. "This is it," he whispered. "We have to follow them and get the evidence we need." They tailed the van to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Sam signaled for Mike and Evelyn to stay back while he moved closer to get a better look. Inside, he saw the horrifying scene. Young women being herded like cattle, their futures uncertain. Sam took photos and recorded everything, his hands shaking with anger. Suddenly, a guard spotted him and raised the alarm. Sam bolted, but not before getting enough evidence to make their case. He regrouped with Mike and Evelyn, breathless but triumphant. "We've got them," Sam said, holding up his camera. "Let's get this to Harris and bring these bastards down." As they drove back to the city, the weight of their discovery pressed on them. The fight was far from over, but they had taken a significant step towards justice. The next day, with the evidence in hand, they presented their findings to Harris. A coordinated raid was quickly organized, targeting Fenton's operation. Sam, Mike, and Evelyn joined the police, ready to see it through to the end. The raid was swift and decisive. Fenton and his associates were arrested, the young women rescued. As the sun rose, Sam felt a sense of accomplishment. They had uncovered another dark secret of the city, bringing hope to those who had suffered. "Good work, team," Sam said, looking at Mike and Evelyn. "We made a difference." Evelyn smiled, tears of relief and joy in her eyes. "We did it. Thank you, Sam." Mike clapped Sam on the back, his usual stoicism giving way to a rare grin. "One step at a time, we're cleaning up this city." As they stood together, the echoes of the past began to fade. They knew the shadows would always be there, but they also knew they had the strength to face them. And so, with the city awakening around them, Sam, Mike, and Evelyn prepared for whatever lay ahead, united in their mission to protect and serve. The battle against the darkness continued, but they were ready, knowing that every victory, no matter how small, was a step towards a brighter future.